Everybody, welcome to Storm Talk. Brian Good here on this Monday before Groundhog Day. Welcome to February, by the way. I'll try to do another update to the blog this evening for the longer term beyond this event for tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll see if I can try to also include some of the data about tomorrow if we get anything this evening that looks anything different than what we're looking at now. Keep in mind, a lot of the short-range models are just now beginning to see how this is going to evolve. Tomorrow, obviously, the day of, we're going to have a much better handle on all this. But here's the latest thinking. First off, the outlook today, no worries, of course. But tomorrow, not much change from the Weather Service or the SBC here for the outlook for tomorrow. The enhanced area and the darker shaded area, the yellow is slight. There is argument still that this area to the west is a little more prone to anything that would really qualify, in my opinion anyway, of more of enhanced. And then in here, it's a little more questionable, and I think this is right, obviously to the east. But it's the area along 65, including Louisville, that's a little questionable compared to Evansville to Corden. That's the area that I still think has a much higher threat for anything that a lot of you are always looking at, and that is tornadoes. The tornado threat looks to be higher there. Now, does that mean that our threat for severe weather is lower here? Not necessarily. It just means that the mode of severe weather is going to evolve as the system evolves, and that's what we always see in these scenarios. You go from cellular type structures, and quickly you can go into a linear mode, and in some cases bowing segments for straight line winds. Now, what has changed since last week, when initially we thought that there would be very little chance for the cellular idea, it'll go straight linear, is that the idea that there is slightly better instability showing up compared to last week. Not much, but slightly better. The higher moisture content continues to stay strong, and we do have a cap this time around that is showing up. We don't talk about that very much in the winter time. Usually in the summer, yes. Winter time, it is rare to see a cap. This is when you get like kind of an inversion that takes place in the atmosphere, and I'll show you in a few moments. That can actually promote the more cellular structure, and that is more likely, again, to our west, but that is a little bit of a change compared to the past few days, and that's what's kind of led to the enhanced risk being issued. So, here's the storm itself. Still getting its act together, about to become a blizzard for Iowa. It's a good thing they're getting the caucuses in today, because tomorrow would be a different story for these guys. The warm front, it's hard to see, but it's kind of pinched out right in through here across Texas, and this is the main low itself developing around Albuquerque, and that low is going to move on out in toward Chicago and Michigan as we head into the next 36 hours. Let me show you our in-house model, the RPM. It is a short-range model. It is high resolution. Here are the wind arrows in temperatures and, of course, the precipitation. This afternoon, we've got a mix of some sun and clouds out there. Now, as we head into 6 o'clock in the morning, notice how chilly we are to the north especially. 30s, potentially north. Here in Louisville, I think we'll average out closer to the lower 40s, if not mid-40s, depending on our urban effect we have here in the city. But the warm front at that point should be moving in. When you get more of a east-southeast wind, that tells us the warm front is going to be lining up, and it should be right in through this area at 6 a.m. But watch what happens. Again, here's the clock at 6 a.m., temperature 40. Watch as the warm front moves in, how quickly we move up. By 11:30, we're at 54. We begin to get a few rain showers along the front. Very little thunder potential with that. And then we keep climbing. 70, which would break the record of 68, by the way, about 4:30 in the afternoon. Now, at this point, this is where we are seeing data indicating a cap is going to be showing up, which means the cloud cover may be very limited, which will allow for a decent amount of sunshine and therefore warming. So this 70-degree temperature may be too low. We may have to raise that. So we'll evaluate that data this afternoon. But you begin to see what's happening. The cap begins to break to our west, and you get more of the cellular structures developing in West Kentucky and right along the Wabash areas of Indiana itself. And that, again, is at 4:30 in the afternoon. Now, the in-house model begins to show the cells begin to merge more into lines. Still got to watch these for an isolated tornado threat at this point, anywhere from I would say just west of Evansville to Corden. That'll be the zone around 7 in the evening. And then as we head into 10 o'clock in the evening, that's when the clusters, again, move in. They're trying to get linear. At this point, we're trying to form a solid line of showers and thunderstorms, and it may not be perfectly solid all the way through. There may be some gaps and breaks, but you can see some of the bowing segments, even at the model, is trying to pick out on, and still some cellular structure. So there's a lot to monitor at this point. Even though the sun's going down, there still could be some active weather here when it comes to warnings being issued for straight line winds, and yes, a few tornado warnings cannot be ruled out in this kind of a setup. Is this going to be a tornado outbreak? I do not see that. This is going to be a March 2nd, 2012 event. No. Let's get that on the table. But this is one that can produce some damage winds as it passes through, and then by the time we head into 1:30 in the morning, it moves out of here. We don't drop off as far as temperature because all these thunderstorms are ahead of the cold front. They get way ahead of where the actual front is, and the cooler air, that will not arrive until sometime during the day on Wednesday. In fact, Wednesday morning, we're going to start off in the 50s, and then as the colder air catches up, we'll see a drop. So our high temperature for Wednesday will likely be at midnight in the 60s, and we'll see it fall into likely the 30s in the afternoon. All right? And could even see some snow, by the way, by the time that's over with. We'll worry about that later. Here's the high res of the NAM model, taking us into the afternoon hours. Similar timing, I would say 2 to 4 o'clock. The cells begin to break out around Paducah. By the time we head into the 7 o'clock time period, it shows several of the cell structures showing up. These are the ones, I mean, this is not looking good for West Tennessee and down in Mississippi and Alabama. This area could certainly have several tornado warnings potentially in effect by the looks of the ingredients that they have in that area. But even for West Kentucky and West Tennessee, this is an area to watch for a potential for a tornado watch to be issued because of that type of a setup. Now, once we get into the 9, 10 o'clock period here in Louisville, this is where, again, it begins to change modes. We see this a lot for Louisville. We go from cells to a line. Now, it's still pretty cellular across Tennessee. It starts to become more linear slowly in Kentucky, but not as much as it did last week. So that is why there's an enhanced area still for severe weather being progged for area, and then by, say, 3 in the morning, 1 or 2 in the morning, something like that, the line's out of here. Here's what's tremendous, though. Look at the dew point of 60 plus, 60 degree plus. This is a lot of moisture that is surging ahead of the front in western Kentucky in the afternoon. Now, when the line arrives, we don't have as much of it. We still have quite a bit to talk about, but certainly a huge surge there just to the west of Louisville. And this is where I think the enhanced, in my opinion, probably would have been more likely placed. But again, I think they're just counting on the idea that maybe it could be off by a few hours, and there could be the mode of going from cells to linear may take a little longer, and that's why I think they're kind of just putting it a little further east on 65. It's my taking on it, why that's been drawn that way. But here's another good map too, the NAM 4K. This shows you the wind barbs from the surface all the way aloft. You can see it's a southeast wind, then turns southwest, and then strongly southwest as you go high up. So it kind of turns. This is a directional shear event. This is why we're talking about potential for isolated tornadoes around the area, and you can see where that threat is right across the I-65 area and west. Now, yes, you still have turning of the winds here to the east of us on I-75, but again, the barbs are not as strong. In other words, the wind fields are not as strong, even though you have turning, but you have turning and strong speeds at the same time, and that's what we can look for. Now, CAPE is drawn on here, by the way. It's hard to see it. There's not a lot of CAPE. It's very weak CAPE. This is your instability. Still higher to our west, not so much locally. Here's the sounding out to the west of us. It is showing the inversion that is taking place. The LCL pretty low as well. It's showing in their hazard type is marginal tornado potential. Got some dry air. Good sign of that as well for punch. And this is called the hodiograph. It's a looping hodiograph, in fact, for this area close to Evansville. So to me, yeah, if I were to guess at this point, this is going to be a cellular type profile potential for I would say a tornado watch should be issued for that area. Now, for us, at the same time that's going on, this is the sounding for the Louisville area. And notice we do have a cap in the mid-levels going on, and that's why I think we are going to have a decent amount of sunshine and a decent amount of warming that is going to happen in the afternoon. Now, once we get into the evening, we begin to get the storms to approach our area. We begin to saturate. Again, here's your moisture line in green, temperature line in red. They become closer and closer together. Look at the wind fields, though, just above us. I mean, below 5,000. We're looking at about almost 70 knots in shear going all the way up, pretty high up in fact. Very strong winds above us. And then as we head toward the 9, 10 o'clock hour, you can't get any more saturated than this. The two lines are on top of each other. This is a heavy rain event, hence the 4 dots we're getting from the rain symbol here on Buffkett. And this can drive those strong winds down to the surface, even with the weakening CAPE. You can still have a tremendous amount of rainfall pull down the winds and get wind damage. And that is what the scenario that we are facing is a little different than the other scenarios in the wintertime we would typically face. So that is interesting to see. Whoops, let me go back. That is interesting to see that show up there, and that's something we'll be monitoring. So still at this point, Evansville to Corydon and south, that whole zone there, just west of Louisville, has a higher tornado threat. The area along 65, it's marginal, but not zero. And then east of 65, it's more linear, more damage and wind threat. But everybody has a chance at severe weather, and that's something we need to monitor. So don't be alarmed. Let us do the worrying for you. Just be informed. We'll take care of that part for you.